Hey guys, this is Lisa, aka Wolf and Storm, coming at you with a brand new video for Time Lord Victorious, our December review dump. Now, I know I said that I was going to do a review much earlier in the month, but the reason why I waited so long was because I was waiting for the second book, the second hardcover book, All Flesh is Grass, to come in the mail. And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and it wasn't showing up, and I couldn't figure out why. And I had to go online and do a little research, and I figured out that the release date has been pushed back on the book until the end of January for world reasons. So I had to kind of decide, do I wait until I get All Flesh is Grass next month and do everything in one cohesive final dump? Or do I do what I can do right now with the pieces I have and then wait till next month to do my last one? So I decided I didn't want to keep y'all guys on the hook for too much longer, especially considering that this is the holiday season, and it's not the best holiday season in the world for most everybody this year. So I thought, to brighten up y'all's day, I thought that instead of waiting till next month to do it all at once, that I would give you what I've got now, just to make you that much happier. So before we go any further, my usual shout outs. Please do help me keep on keeping on this channel. Hit me up on social media, on Twitter and on Patreon. Links are in the description. If you can, please, if you like this content and you want to see more, smash that like button, ding that bell. If you do so, the more you do, the more chances I have to bring you this great content as time goes on. And considering the state of the world as it is right now, I think this content is kind of what we're holding on to, right? Yeah. So, before we get into the reviews, just a little bit of David Tennant news. Currently, I believe filming is on not a hiatus, but more like a Christmas vacation thing, obviously, because David is back in the UK right now, spending the holidays with his family. But as soon as that is over, he'll be going straight back over to Romania and South Africa to continue filming Around the World in 80 Days. That is, you know, if there are no further travel restrictions. Beyond that, if you had the opportunity to be involved in any one of David's charities from this past month, good on you. Thank you for supporting him and supporting those charities, those amazing charities that he is involved with. For the rest of this month, there's only just a couple of things that he has been doing. If you have the chance, towards the end of this week, he's going to be participating, playing himself, in a Cinderella pantomime that's totally on Zoom. The only problem is that even though this pantomime looks really awesome and it's a really diverse cast of characters, it's only available on BBC iPlayer. So unless you pay that exorbitant license fee and you live in the UK, you might have an issue being able to watch it. So I've only seen a very small clip of it so far that's been on the David Tennant fan site, and it doesn't even have him in it. But hopefully, as time goes on, they might post it to YouTube or other sites that you can get your hands on it. But if you do have the opportunity, please, I will post a link to the BBC site. But of course, I mean, unless you're in the UK and pay the license fee, even if you did have, what are those, like a proxy VPN type server, that would get you onto the site, but it still wouldn't account for the license fee, which is kind of sucks, but that's the way things go. He's also won a Digital Spy Award for his performance in Des. I believe that video is on YouTube. So I will put a link to that in the description, if not in the video itself. So big thumbs up to David for winning that award. I know Joe Martin has also won an award for her breakout moment as, the whatever doctor. But big thumbs up to David Tennant for winning that award in Des. It is very much deserved. So yeah, I will post a link to his acceptance speech. He actually filmed that acceptance speech in November when he was still on location shooting for Around the World in 80 Days. So just so that doesn't confuse you or anything, but yeah. And also Staged has won another award for Best Comedy, so thumbs up to Staged. And just so you know, Staged Season 2 is set to premiere January 4th in the UK. But I know that it is not difficult to get your hands on things like that, so please do support David with Around the World in 80 Days, and also please support him with Staged Part 2, him and Michael Sheen, because it looks freaking awesome! I will have a review on that as the episodes come out, starting probably end of next week. Okay, so that's the end of the David Tennant news, and now we segue on to the big stuff. Neat! Alright, we have 3 different topics we're going to be touching on today. We're going to be reviewing Mutually Assured Destruction, which is the final Paul McGann 8th Doctor storyline involving Time Lord Victorious. We will also be reviewing The Minds of Magnox with the 10th Doctor and Brian the Ood. And we will be reviewing episodes 4 and 5, The Deadliest Ally. And what's the title of the 5th one? Day of Reckoning. The last 2 episodes of the Daleks animated series. So, what do we do first? Well, I want to do the one that I have listened to the most recently. We're going to start with Mutually Assured Destruction. This is the last entry for Paul McGann's 8th Doctor in the Time Lord Victorious storyline. It is supposed to take place, from what I can tell, after the whole shebang with the 10th Doctor. I don't know the ending of the story because, again, I have not been able to read All Flesh is Grass. The book's not here yet. But we can assume that since the 10th Doctor is not there, and nor is the 9th Doctor, that part of the storyline is done, and he has already left. So it takes place on a Dalek ship, still in the dark times at the moment, and he has left wherever he was trying to stop the 10th Doctor. Now, Nick Briggs, who is the executive producer of Big Finish, describes this audio as Die Hard on a spaceship. And I gotta tell you, he's not wrong. With the only exception is that it's not just the Doctor by himself. It's trying to get to a specific place. It's the Doctor and a couple of other people that he finds along the way trying to get to a specific place. But the overall plot is almost the same. So they're on the Dalek ship. The ship is in catastrophic failure. It is about to crash. Not sure where, but it's about to be destroyed. Something happened, I'm guessing, as they were leaving, whatever happened with the Katura. I can't tell you what it is because, like I said, I haven't read the book. So I don't know how that storyline ended and how it has made it so that the Dalek ship is in such catastrophic failure. But now that they have left that situation, they no longer care about their alliance with the Doctor at all. The only one that seems to still feel like he needs to be allied with the Doctor is the Dalek strategist. Because the strategist is actually the smart one. He actually knows what he's doing. But the other Daleks just want the Doctor dead. They have the TARDIS on the bridge. So it is the Doctor's mission at this point to get from where he is in the science lab to the bridge to get the TARDIS and get the fuck off the ship before the ship explodes. Along the way, he meets up with 2 members of a now dead race that the Daleks have destroyed. A woman and a man. The man is a warrior sort, bred to be a soldier, and the woman is bred to be a scientist. She is extremely logical. and the man is extremely angry. All the rest of the members of their race and their planet is dead because of the Daleks. So they're the only two left. And he's trying to get them off the ship. One, because, he's the doctor and he's trying to save them. And two, because they're the only two members left of their race. And they are far too valuable, being the only two members left of their race, to die on board that ship. So it is basically an adventure of them trying to outwit all of the Daleks, get out of the science lab, and get to the bridge. I have to say all the awards to Nick Briggs, because this is not a number of people playing different Daleks. This is Nick Briggs playing every single Dalek, from the lowliest drone to the executioner Dalek to the Dalek that's the Dalek time commander, to the strategist, to the scientist, every single fucking one of them. And every single one has a distinct different voice and a distinct personality all its own. And just all the awards to Nick Briggs, because that when he's going into this, then he has to take each and every single Dalek apart at the root and decide, what is this Dalek going to sound like? What is this Dalek's personality? What is this Dalek's goal? What is what does it want? What does it need? In order to give it a distinct personality separate and apart from the others. Otherwise they would sound all the same. But not a single one of them do. And that's all up to Nick and his amazing prowess as a voice actor, and just his amazing knowledge of the Daleks as a whole. The world will be a sadder place when he is gone from this world. Because I don't think anybody could play the Daleks the way he plays them. So it starts off with the doctor and the Dalek strategist in the science lab. And they're kind of playing a cat and mouse game as to whether or not they're going to hold up their individual ends of this bargain that they struck back on Rax, the alliance that they made unbeknownst to the other Daleks. Now, the doctor at this point, if you remember, does not know what the Daleks did to the Raxians. He doesn't know yet. He thinks that the Raxians are still alive and that they destroyed that weapon and everything's okay. He doesn't know the real truth about that whole matter, but he will know by the end of this story, because the strategist is going to tell him that truth. And it will only magnify to him the importance of getting the fuck out and the fuck off of the ship, and that alliances with the Daleks are pointless. Even his alliance with the strategist that seems to have served him thus far is only good to a point, because, as Daleks always say, and you'll figure it out even in the Daleks animated series, a Dalek will always turn on you no matter what. That's just what Daleks are. They have no loyalty to anyone. Even in the moment. None. And if they do give you loyalty, it's only to serve their own purpose. And once that purpose is served, you're dead. Because they have no need for you. So, since the ship is crashing and they don't want the doctor to get his TARDIS on the bridge, their number one goal is to kill the doctor. But the strategist won't allow it because of this fragile alliance that they've made. The doctor has told the Dalek wants the doctor to take him to the TARDIS, and they can both escape. Now I'm thinking to myself, there's no way in fucking hell that this doctor, the doctor, at all would allow a Dalek on a TARDIS. Just never. Never. Even if he does say yes, we all know the doctor lies. And this is probably done only to achieve his own ends, which is to get out of the lab and get to the bridge. So at first the Daleks are all about wanting the doctor dead, but then they realize that he might be the only thing that can save them, because the ship is falling apart. It's about to explode and they're all going to die. So his engineering knowledge far outstrips them. They know this. They might not want to admit it, but they know it. So they realize that they need to keep him alive. But the problem is the Time Commander has already given the order to the Executioner Dalek to kill the Doctor. And the Executioner Dalek, kind of thick. Just a smidge. So once it gets the orders, it won't stop. So it's basically the Doctor trying to outwit this Executioner Dalek to get to the TARDIS. Along the way, he comes across these two people, the scientist and the soldier from that dead species. Apparently, these two were the only remaining members of their species left. The Daleks took them to experiment on them to get whatever they could out of them before they killed them. They had them in cryostasis for quite a while. Because the life support systems and the cryogenic systems started to fail on the ship when the ship started falling apart, they woke up from their cryosleep and they're freaking out trying to figure out what's going on and how they're, what are they going to do? They know the Daleks are a threat. They remember the Daleks coming to their planet and wiping out their entire race. So their one goal is to get the hell off the ship. The scientist woman is more logical about it. She knows if they go straight out and try to find weapons and bulldoze them down, that it's not going to work. They're just going to die. Because the Daleks have the advantage. The soldier is so overcome with anger and wanting revenge for the Daleks murdering his friends and family that he just doesn't care. He just wants them all dead. So when the Doctor's with them, he's trying to convince this guy, but the guy doesn't. He convinces him for a short period of time, and then after a while, the guy just doesn't want to listen anymore. And he goes after the weapons store, and in doing so, he winds up getting himself killed, basically. So it's just him and the woman who is now the last remaining member of her race. And the strategist. They finally make it to the bridge, and they need to get to the TARDIS. The Time Commander doesn't initially want to let him because they want to stop the Dalek ship from exploding. But the Doctor's not having it. At the same time, they have to figure out a way to stop the Executioner Dalek. And in a roundabout way, it's almost like what happened at the end of Day of the Doctor, where Gallifrey disappears and all the Daleks shoot each other. It's kind of basically how most of this ends, is that all the Daleks wind up shooting each other in their mission to stop the Executioner Dalek. They wind up taking out the Time Commander, so they have no leader left. I think the strategist decides to take over, and then they wind up shooting each other. And in the fracas, the Doctor and the woman manage to escape back onto the TARDIS and gallop on the fuck out of there just before, like mere seconds before the ship explodes. So all those Daleks that we have been dealing with this whole time, the scientists and the strategists and all that, gone. The Doctor just barely manages to escape, and at the end, he's talking to this woman, and he's asking her where she would like to go, because now she has this opportunity to go anywhere she wants. But he's trying to get her to understand that it's not a good idea to try to scientifically understand races by experimenting on them or trying to genetically alter them to be perfect. If you want to see the universe out there and understand it, you have to experience it, not try to change it to make it suit your whim. He says to her, there's hundreds and millions of different planets that you could go to. You have a whole universe that you could see. He might not even keep her there, since he's technically still in the dark times, and he has to find a way back to his own time stream. He might just take her with him to his own time stream and drop her off someplace where, it isn't so crazy. Or he might just keep her in her own time stream and drop her off somewhere where she would be happy. We never really know where she winds up, because the story ends as they're discussing it. But that is Paul McGann's final entry. And It is a really good story. Die Hard's one of my favorite films, so I was kind of, as I was listening to this, I was trying to visualize the setup to see if it went along with Die Hard, and it really did, because he started off in one place, and at first the Daleks didn't know that weren't entirely sure that he was there, and I guess his alliance with the strategist kind of mirrors John McClane's alliance with the cop outside when the cop finally does show up. And the funny part is when he finally takes out the execution Dalek, and the execution Dalek arrives on the bridge. It's just like that scene when McClane takes out one of the assassins, and he ties him to a chair, and he writes, "Ho ho ho! Now I have a gun." He like spray paints it on his shirt. And when the elevator opens up and Hans Gruber sees the guy strapped to the chair dead with ho ho ho, now I have a gun. It's kind of like that same experience. So I have to believe that whoever wrote this story watched Die Hard first to get those little interesting tidbits that made the story just that much better. Hogmanay, as always, on point. You can tell when he does these that he is in his element. That this is what he loves, being the Doctor. And I still say, to this day, this man was shafted and shitted and should get his own series, bar none. Give this man a TV series right now. Right fucking now. I would love to see him pre-Time War, in the Time War. Just give it to me. Take my money and give it to me. He deserves it. Absolutely. So yeah, that's mutually assured destruction, and a very awesome ending to the 8th Doctor's foray into the Time Lord victorious series. I don't know what's going to happen to the 9th Doctor and his involvement. Like I said, I think that's primarily in the book, which we will get to next month when it comes out. Geez, it doesn't come out to the end of January, which means I have to read the book first and then do the review. So it might be February before you actually get something. Oof. Well, don't worry now. January is going to be for Revolution of the Daleks. Review/rant. So, next up, we have The Minds of Magnox. This is BBC Books' foray into the Time Lord Victorious storyline. It is a 10th Doctor story with his companion Brian Oud, and it is read by prolific Doctor Who voice actor Jacob Dugman, who does an on-point, perfectly accurate, like, couldn't even tell the difference impression of Matt Smith. Mind you, his impression of David Tennant is okay, but his impression of the 11th Doctor is on point. So in this story, it is, again, after All Flesh is Grass. I don't know how that particular story ends, as I said, because I don't have the book. But he is still with Brian on the ship. Some of the mercenaries are still with him. He's still on that spaceship. The TARDIS is in the spaceship. And he has decided to go to a planet called Magnox, which is the seat of a huge repository of knowledge. It has all the knowledge that ever was, of everything that ever was. He wants to ask the ancients there a question about life and death. And because his question is something that they just can't give to him, it's not something that they can just pull from one of their texts or books. It's the type of question that he has to have a face-to-face audience with them. So he has to pass a series of eligibility tests in order to get in there to have this face-to-face with them. So he is there on his own, trying to talk to the ancients, and Brian, since he's the doctor doesn't need him for this, goes off on his own to just kind of hang out, and meets up with someone there, a young man who he kind of ingratiates himself with, and they decide to go on a little side adventure that doesn't turn out too well for Brian. Brian is having a bit of a hard time because he hasn't killed anybody in a while, and it's kind of sticking in his craw. That's just what he's used to doing. It's his thing. So he needs some action. He needs something to get the blood juices flowing. So he goes to a bar, sits down, kind of looks around to people watch, and the guy that sits next to him buys him a drink. What he doesn't realize is that the drink has something in it that subsumes Mr. Box's control over him. I'm not sure what Mr. Box is, or not Box, Mr. Ball. But I think Mr. Ball might be a psychological construct that's in Brian's own mind. Sometimes I almost think that he has like a split personality or something, or it's that part of him that allows him to kill people, I guess, and it's cut off from his actual personality, sort of, in a way. But when he drinks this alcoholic drink, it's not harmful, but it just kind of subsumes Mr. Ball enough so that the real Brian can come out and make decisions on his own. And so this kid that he meets up with, he actually, before this, he saves the boy's life because the guy is in an alleyway and he's about to get killed, and Brian saves his life by killing the guy who's going to kill him. So the kid invites him for a drink at this local bar. He drinks it, and of course it allows him to speak a little more freely. So as a thank you, the guy invites him to meet up with his friends because he says that he's a bit of a mercenary and they have a job that they're trying to do, and they need someone with his particular set of skills. So for want of anything else to do, really, Brian's like, cool, okay. So he goes and meets this guy's friends, and they put him through a series of tests to determine whether or not he's capable. Not that they would initially trust him, but that he's, capable of doing what he says that he can do. And he does pass. And they tell him that the job is an assassination job. They need to sneak into the building where the ancients are, the repository of knowledge, because they have been paid to kill the ancients, to get rid of them all. Since Brian is the one with the assassin skills, ostensibly he's the one that's going to have to do it. The group is there to help him get through all the traps and things to get close enough to the aliens to finish the job. And at first Brian's like, okay, as long as I get a share of the payment, sure, fine, whatever. What he doesn't realize is that the doctor is going to talk to these people. So it almost becomes like, and when he does figure it out, it becomes a really crazy conflict of interest thing. So the doctor becomes sort of friends with one of the ladies that works there. All she does is kind of work she's kind of a receptionist of sorts. She works at the front desk, and she takes their information. She asks them what it is, what the question is that they want to ask, tells them where to go to get the answer. Sort of a librarian of sorts. But when he asks his question and it comes up that all these warnings start to flash because his question is something that can't be easily answered, she's the one that has to direct him to where he has to go to do all these specialized tests in order to seek an audience Now, initially, she's not supposed to go with him. He's supposed to go on his own, but the doctor's like, hey, that's cool. Come on, let's go. Why should I be the only one that gets to see this? I mean, you work here all the time and you never get, come on, let's go. So, initially, she's hesitant, but then she's like, okay, okay, cool. She's a little scared because, this is not something that she's been brought up knowing that the creatures are, they're up here and she's down here and, there the twain shall meet. So she goes with him to this room where he's put through this psychological test of sorts. And it's very, very painful, but he manages to pass when even some of their biggest brains on their planet have not been able to pass. And yet he has. But of course, that's because Time Lords are cool. And Time Lords have big brains. So he manages to get an audience with these creatures. And what they are is kind of complicated. They used to be humanoid. And in some ways, excuse me, they still are. But they have altered their bodies to make them more able to contain all the knowledge that's in their brains. Their heads become so big with the knowledge that they have that they can hardly even lift their bodies to move. So their bodies are contained in these machines that allow them to walk. And each of them looks different. Some have horns coming out of their heads, and some, they're all very weird, and the descriptions are very graphic. So he tries to ask him the question that he wants to know about, life and death. I think he wants to be sure that what he's doing is right, because there's some part of him that is starting to question whether him taking on the Katura and destroying them was the right thing to do. I don't think he realizes quite yet the ramifications for what he's done. So as he's asking them this question, they basically look at him like he's nothing. And they laugh at him and make fun of him, and the girl doesn't even know what to think. She's like, oh, yeah. And as they're talking about this, the planet starts getting warnings that there's a large alien ship that's about to enter the atmosphere. It's the Katura, or what's left of them anyway. There's only a few. And right now they are desperate to survive. While all this is happening, Brian and his group are heading towards the ancients in the building. And they have to make it through all these different traps. Some of them get killed as a result. Brian, including Brian's friend, he finally makes it to the doctor. And when the doctor realizes that he's now being paid to assassinate the ancients, he's like, what in the hell are you doing? You are not going to kill them, not before my question is answered. So now they're having a fight about it. But it's hard to tell whether or not Brian's doing this just to make money, or is he doing this because he's trying to save the doctor? Brian is a very complex character. You wouldn't think he would care that much about one person to do something that big to save them. But then again, the doctor inspires that kind of loyalty to people. And yet, Brian is the type of person who's only loyal, to money. As he's been trained from a very early age, his certain set of skills, So, before the doctor's able to get the answer to the question, Brian kills all of the ancients first. Because apparently if there was an answer to this question, the Katura would make use of that, and it would make everything that much worse. So in order to save the Doctor from doing something incredibly stupid, he kills all of the ancients. And the Doctor's just, what? But there's nothing that he can do about it. They're all dead. The girl is like, what? Because these are their elders, their leaders, they're all now dead. Now she doesn't even know what to do. Turns out that the head of the repository, the person who's in charge of the place, is the one that put out the hit, because he does not like the ancients at all. He feels that they have too much knowledge and that they've not put it to the proper use, and that their planet is not being allowed to be as successful or, as great as it could be, because they have hoarded all of this knowledge for themselves. And they don't seem to care about anybody else. And the way that they're described and the way that they treat people, it is true. They don't care about anybody else. You see that in the side story with Brian and the young man that he's friends with. Basically, when they go to meet this young man's other group of friends that he works with, you realize that most of the people on this planet live in the slums. Like, they're poor, they have nothing, they don't have the ability to be more than what they are, because the ancients have hoarded everything. So you can kind of see where the head of the repository is coming from, but the way he's going about doing it, that's not right either. So at the end of the day, the Katura, there's nothing that the Doctor can do on his own to stop the Katura. These are creatures that he cannot stop on his own, other than by using what he used. But that was a one-time deal. Again, I don't know the story before this. It's hard for me to fill in the blanks as to how they got this way, because I haven't read All Flesh is Grass, so I don't know. I'm kind of making educated guesses here. I'm assuming he doesn't have any more of that stuff left that can kill them with. Otherwise, anyway, so the ship, filled with however few Katura are left, literally level the entire planet. Like, the entire planet. I imagine that some people might have been able to escape, but very few. So basically, that Magnox as a planet is virtually destroyed. The Doctor and Brian and the girl are barely able to get out of there in time. And remember, he and Brian kind of get into it at the end. I think Brian dies, if I remember right. So the Doctor takes the girl. He rescues her because she's one of the few of her race that still lives. And he actually asks her if she wants to travel with him. But in her mind, she's just like, my entire planet is dead. My people are gone. And you're just running around acting like it's nothing. This is one of those times where the Doctor can't quite see the forest for the trees. You would think he would have much more sympathy, considering that he lost his own planet and his own people. But he's so completely lost inside himself that I don't think it's until the end of time that he starts to, those 2 episodes, that he starts to realize what he's become, especially after what happened with Waters of Mars. So he takes her to a planet called Islos, which will come into play somewhere else. It's a paradise planet where he tells her that she'll be happy here. It's really nice. You'll never be in any kind of pain again. Everything here is great. So she lives there to a ripe old age. She becomes the repository, because she has, from all the knowledge that she has gleaned from the repository on her planet. So people come to her to ask questions and gain knowledge from her. And she does this to a ripe old age. And in the coda to the story, many years have passed, she's grown old, and a visitor comes to see her. She thinks it's just one of many that tend to come see her. She doesn't recognize him at first. He's kind of lanky, tall, floppy hair, big chin. And yes, it's the doctor, but it's not the doctor she remembers. It's the 11th doctor. And he comes to see her and to apologize to her and tell her that he was sorry. And it took him a long time to realize how badly he fucked up and how much damage that he had done. And they're both able to kind of talk to each other and give each other the comfort of knowing that even though they made mistakes before, that everything is okay now. You know, everything kind of worked itself out. Again, Jacob Dubman was on point with his Matt Smith. On point. And it has that cute little ending where she waves him off and he goes into the TARDIS and disappears into time and space. I don't exactly know how he managed to get back to the Dark Times again, because that only happened for one reason, because of the Time Lord Victorious thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah, it was a very interesting story. I didn't think I was going to be as interested in the Brian the Ood stuff, but actually, whoever wrote this was really, really good at character development, because I really got into the Brian the Ood backstory and his new relationship with this group of people. I kind of felt like Brian was looking for somewhere to fit in. He seems like a loner, but that's just kind of a face, I think, that he puts on. I don't think that's really his way, because apparently in his backstory, he was adopted into a group of assassins, so he's used to being in that group, even though he wound up murdering them later on. But I think he kind of, somewhere inside of him, misses that group dynamic, so it wasn't hard for him to agree to, become a part of their little group. The doctor is still a little... Dudman is okay with his impersonation of the 10th Doctor, but personally, I would rather David Tennant had just come in and done it instead. It would have been a lot better. But he was fine. He was fine. The Doctor is still kind of not all there as far as realizing what the hell he's done. But I think towards the end of this story and watching Magnox be destroyed because of him taking out the Katura, he's starting to see that his actions have had unforeseen consequences that he didn't even think about. So, I'm assuming that this all gets ironed out and all flesh is grass again. I don't know. I haven't read the book, so there's spots here in this story that I can't really give you answers to. But yeah, they were both very good stories. I was surprised because this one was not a big finished story. It was BBC Books, so it was very different. Usually, the BBC Books ones are just okay, because they're not like the actual audio dramas. They're books just read. So, but actually they were both very well done. So I would recommend, if you have the opportunity, go and get those. Put the links to that in the description if you have not already. And now, last but certainly not least, we have episodes 4 and 5 of Daleks. We have the Deadliest Ally, and why can't I remember this? Day of Reckoning. Now, I have to be honest with you, I have not really been particularly into this animated series, because I fail to see how this connects with the overall Time Lord Victoria storyline, with the with one minor exception. If you remember, the first episode of this animated series is called The Oracle of Islos, and this doesn't come into play until Minds of Magnox at the very end, because Islos is the planet where he takes the woman to, the last remaining survivor of the Magnox race. That's literally the only tie-in between the two stories. So this is apparently, this Islos from the first episode is that same planet, only millions and billions of years into the future, way after the dark times. So instead of the repository oracle of knowledge being a person, it's now a huge computer database that's protected by 3 robots. That's really the only thing that ties either of this together. The rest of the story is really has nothing to do with the bigger Time Lord Victorious storyline. Still don't get what the big green entity is. They never really explain it. I will say, though, that the last 3 episodes, the Mechanoids, the Deadliest Ally, and the Day of Reckoning, are the strongest of the 5. The back and forth between the Dalek strategist and the leader of the Mechanoids is on point. If you remember in episode 3, they get there, the Daleks and the Mechanoids fire upon each other for a while, but then they decide to stop. Because the green thing that entity has followed them. And in order for them to survive, the strategist and the leader of the Mechanoids realizes they need to come together. Because if they don't, this thing's going to kill them all. It already took out Scarl like that, so the strategist convinces the leader of the Mechanoids to ally with the Daleks. And yeah, it doesn't work out for her too well. At first, they manage to beat it back, but then she realizes in the last episode that he's actually been using her. The Daleks knew that they could not take on the entity on their own, because it already took out the entirety of Skaro and all their Dalek fleet, including that secret one. So there's no way that they could take it out. But they also knew that the Mechanoids have certain technologies that outstrip even Daleks themselves. So they have this particle beam that's on the dome of their biggest building, that apparently it can be refitted, that if they were able to get the entity's signature that would determine where and when the entity comes from, that they could feed it into the machine, open up a portal, and send the entity back through. Which is what they managed to do in the 5th episode. And at first they're like, oh, okay, great, we've won, it's gone, blah, blah. But this is exactly what the strategist was wanting. He was wanting them to build this machine so he could, 1, get rid of the entity and save the Daleks, and 2, get rid of the Mechanoids. Because as soon as the machine is built and the entity's gone and the Daleks are safe, he turns it around on them, takes the signature they have, and puts it into the machine, opens up the portal, and sends them through to where the entity is, so that the Mechanoids will die. Thereby saving the Daleks, because you never turn your back on a Dalek. You never ally with a Dalek unless you want to die. It will use you for its ends, and then once its ends are met, it will kill you. That's just what a Dalek is. I have to say, the last 3 episodes are the best of the bunch, because the relationship between the leader of the Mechanoids and the strategist is just great. Like, their riffing back and forth is on point. She keeps trying to tell him that Daleks will destroy themselves, that they're disgusting, that they're a horrible race, and yet at the end he turns it back around on her. So yeah, it's good stuff. The only problem is the animation is subpar, unfortunately, and it doesn't really connect with the overall Time Lord Victorious storyline. in any way other than superficially. I think this was more of an excuse just for the BBC to try out a chance at animating more than anything else. It doesn't really tie into the overall story. I think they could have done better. I really do. And hopefully in the future, because we've already seen it in the 2007 and 2008 when they had the animated films involving the 10th Doctor. Much better. So I know they have the ability. But, oh well. Anywho, so those are my 3 reviews for December. So we have one more left, All Flesh is Grass, which comes out at the end of January. I will read that book as quickly as I can and get that review to you as quickly as possible. Before that, though, of course, do not forget, I don't know how many of you will be watching it or won't be, but New Year's Day, we have Revolution of the Daleks, our festive New Year's whatever the fuck special that BBC wants to put out. All I can say is we'll take a look at it, see how it goes. I'm not expecting much. I mean, the only excitement I may have is seeing Jack again. However, I struggle to understand how he's going to fit into the overall dynamic. He didn't fit in very well in Fugitive of the Jadoon. I don't know if it's going to be any better here. But I will probably have some sort of review for that. If I don't, you'll likely see me involved in another live stream with my other friends as we discuss the horror. So yeah, I will catch you all on the flip side, likely by the end of next week, when we discuss the festive special, and then again end of January for All Flesh is Grass. After that, who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see if there's anything awesome. Oh yeah. There is awesome stuff coming up in 2021 from Big Finish, Dalek Universe, and the Ninth Doctor Adventures. You damn sure know there'll be reviews up for that. As well as reviewing Around the World in 80 Days with David Tennant. So that is it for me. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Adios, amigos.
Good night.